Good evening, everybody. So, one thing that you might not know about me is that, in fact, I have a very particular morning routine. It begins with a stretch. And that stretch can occur either inside or outside of my bed. After the stretch comes a glass of water, which takes me to either the kitchen or the bathroom. And after I drink my glass of water, I take a deep breath and I say out loud, "Today, I give birth to myself." Now, on the days that I have remembered to give birth to myself, I haven't noticed any particular pattern, as those are most of the days of my life. But on the days in which I've neglected to give birth to myself, I have noticed a trend, which is that they tend to be the worst days of my life. I can remember each one vividly, but I've only got one to share tonight. It was during that hot spring when it seemed like everybody was getting married. I'm no historian, but as I recall, it was a period following an indefinite suspension of all wedding licenses. And so, everybody was so excited to get married again that they were just getting hitched left and right. And as you may recall, this was also that spring when people's dogs started to revert to wolves. And that same spring, people's cats started reverting as well, also to wolves. And so, with the pet situation and the marriage license situation, if you were lucky enough to have a cat, to have a dog, you might turn to your cat, turn to your dog, and you might say, "Would you marry me?" Because you would simply be so grateful not to own a wolf. Now, at the time, I did not have a dog. I did not have a cat. These were things I was lacking at that time. But I did have one close friend, and so I turned to her and I said, "Would you like to marry me?" And she said, "Sure." And well, my grandma was in the room because, if you know me, my grandma's always in the room. And well, she had to stick her nose in it because, if you know me, my grandma's always got to stick her nose in it. So she kind of looked over at the two of us, kind of looking sideways, and I didn't know what she was going to say, but all that came out of her mouth was, "I'll handle the logistics." And I said, "You'll handle the logistics?" And she looked at me and she said, "Yes." And I couldn't think of anything to handle apart from the logistics, so I just let time pass. And before I knew it, it was the week of my wedding day. And so I called my grandma up. And I said, "Grandma, where is this wedding going to be happening at?" And she said, "Now, Silk, do not be cross with me." I said, "Grandma, I would never be cross with you." And she said, "The YMCA was booked." And she said, "But the Waffle House down from my house said yes." For those of you who don't know, Waffle House is a popular breakfast chain. And I said, "Grandma, that'll be just fine. Just make sure and decorate." And that was fine. So the day came. I woke up late. As mentioned, I neglected to give birth to myself. I did my makeup. I put on my clothes, which were a wedding dress. And I got a ride to the Waffle House, which is about a 10-minute walk down a 4-lane road from my grandma's house. And truth be told, they had done it up real nice. That's something I will never forget. Until the day I die, how nice it looked. But there was one logistical obstacle that we would not, in fact, overcome. That obstacle was that all of the bathrooms, well, precision is very important to me. All of the toilets in all of the bathrooms, by which I mean all of the toilets in both of the bathrooms, were out of order. They simply could not be used. Now, for most, this was no problem. As I mentioned, my grandma's house was only a short walk away, and so those guests needing to use the facilities understood that the facilities were a short walk away at my grandma's house. And that was fine. Until it came time for me to walk down the aisle. An important note on being walked down the aisle is that, for those of you who don't know me, most of the places I have walked in my life, I have walked myself from point A to point B. But in this case, given his feelings and given tradition, I thought I would let my father walk me down the aisle. But here came time to walk down the aisle, and where was he? I looked everywhere and I asked everyone. And finally my sister said, "We better check Grandma's house. You know about that bathroom." And so we took off down the 4-lane road to Grandma's house. Less than 100 feet outside those Waffle House doors, I saw my father. But it was different from most of the times that I've seen my father, because I stopped to think about it, and most of the times I've seen him, he's been either sitting or standing, or very rarely lying down. But in this case, he wasn't any of the three. The only word I have for it was horizontal. Not in a sleepy way, but just horizontal. My sister said, "This doesn't look good," and I agreed, and so we asked him if he was all right. But he didn't say anything. So my sister said, "Well, you know what we've got to do?" And I said, "Okay." And so we drug my father down the 4-lane road. Well, precision is important. Down the sidewalk adjacent to the 4-lane road, back to the Waffle House. And there, my sister said, "Don't worry, I'm trained. Where's the defibrillator?" And I said, "Well, I think I saw something like that in the utility closet where I was getting dressed." And she said, "All right." So we drug my father into the utility closet, and my sister took down the defibrillator. And she said, "Stand back." And I said, "Okay." And she said, 1, 2, 3, go. 1, 2, 3, go. 1, 2, 3, go. And it was like a medical mystery, except nothing happened. He didn't even move. I thought there would be sparks or something. And my sister got real frustrated, and she just mashed the defibrillator right into his chest. But nothing happened. And she held it down until steam started to rise from my father's chest, like Dr. Frankenstein's laboratory. I thought, oh my God, he's going to spring back to life. But then the steam approached my nostrils, and I realized that it smelled a lot like smoke. Like the smoke you might smell from burning tuxedo jacket, burning tuxedo shirt, burning undershirt. burning chest hair and burning skin. And I thought to myself, is that a relipolator? And I saw that my sister was holding an iron. My sister was ironing a dead man's. My sister was ironing my dead father's chest at my wedding. I mean, can you believe? That was about all I thought I'd live to see. Needless to say, I did not get married that day. And it was a long time before I forgot to give birth to myself again. Thank you.